Let's go straight to the point. Those sudden chills that move through your body for no physical reason are not random. They are not imagination, emotion, or coincidence. They are a real, measurable shift happening inside you, and if you've felt them, you already know they arrive with a very specific quality, clarity, intensity, presence. Something changes, even if only for a second. You can be standing still, calm, not afraid, not cold, and suddenly your spine responds, your chest tightens slightly, your skin reacts before your mind has time to label anything. That is not how normal emotions behave. Emotions rise gradually. These chills arrive instantly, like a switch being flipped. Most people never stop to question this. They brush past it and move on. But if you're listening to me now, you didn't. You noticed that those moments feel different, as if reality sharpened, as if you briefly stepped closer to something true and then slipped back again. Jesus taught that the body responds when truth passes through awareness, not symbolically, physically. He spoke about knowing before believing, about perception before doctrine. When truth arrives, the body reacts first, the mind follows later. What you're feeling is not excitement, it's not fear, it's alignment, a moment where internal noise drops and something deeper comes online. Ancient traditions had words for this. They described it as trembling, quickening, awakening, not weakness, recognition. If this has happened to you more than once, you're not sensitive, you're responsive, your system detects shifts others miss. And if you felt it even once, then this message is not finding you by accident. Now we anchor this in something older than opinion. Because this sensation was not discovered by modern spirituality. It was recorded, described, and taught long before belief replaced perception. In the Gospel of Luke, after the resurrection, 2 disciples say something precise and physical. Did not our hearts burn within us while he spoke? Not metaphorically, not poetically. Their bodies reacted before their theology did. In the book of Acts, when the Spirit descends, it does not arrive as an idea. It arrives as wind, force, sensation, movement. In Philippians, the phrase, "work out your salvation with fear and trembling," is not moral advice. In the original language, trembling refers to an involuntary bodily response to contact with the divine. But the clearest descriptions come from the texts most people were never meant to read. In 1945, near Nag Hammadi in Egypt, a sealed jar was uncovered containing Gnostic writings that had been hidden for over 16 centuries. Among them was the Gospel of Truth, a text attributed to Valentinian tradition, which describes awakening as a moment where ignorance dissolves and the body responds with trembling and stillness at the same time, not hysteria, recognition. In Pistis Sophia, a manuscript preserved outside the biblical canon, there are repeated references to souls who no longer tremble once they are stabilized in the light, implying that trembling was a known transitional state, a shift, a crossing, a physiological marker of inner movement. These texts were not lost accidentally. They were excluded during the long process of canon formation in the 4th century, when spiritual authority was centralized and experiential knowledge became a liability. By the time doctrine solidified under imperial Christianity, sensation had become dangerous, because sensation cannot be controlled. Even the language betrays this history. Words like tremble, quiver, shake appear again and again in early writings, then slowly disappear from official teaching, replaced by obedience, belief, and silence. What was once understood as a sign of contact was reframed as instability. What was once initiation became something to suppress. So when your body responds before your thoughts do, you're not imagining things. You're reenacting an ancient sequence that predates institutions, creeds, and permission, and that sequence has never stopped. Now we move from ancient language into the mechanics of what is actually happening inside you, because this experience does not float in mystery alone. It leaves fingerprints in the body. Those chills are not emotions. Emotion builds. It swells. It has a narrative. What you feel happens too fast for that. It arrives as a surge, a wave, a signal. In modern terms, this is a response of the autonomic nervous system, the part of you that reacts before thought, before belief, before identity. The same system that regulates breath, heartbeat, and survival. But this response is not panic. Panic fragments the system. These chills do the opposite. They synchronize it. When the nervous system detects something overwhelmingly meaningful, something larger than the ego can process, It enters a state modern researchers call awe. In that state, the brain quiets its internal chatter, the body becomes more coherent, signals align, and very often the skin responds with a ripple of cold or electricity. This is not mystical speculation, it's observable. The vagus nerve, which runs from the brain through the throat, heart and gut, plays a key role here. When it activates in a regulated way, it creates a sudden drop in internal noise. The result is a physical sensation that feels like a reset, a brief clearing. Ancient traditions didn't call this neuroscience, they called it contact. From a Gnostic perspective, this is what happens when the inner spark brushes against the larger field it came from, not fully returning, just touching, like static jumping between two charged surfaces. The body reacts because it is not separate from consciousness. It is the interface. Think of it this way. When a system crosses a threshold, physics calls it a phase shift. Water becomes steam, ice becomes liquid. The material hasn't changed its identity, but its organization has. What you feel in those moments is a microphase shift in awareness, a momentary reorganization. That's why the chills often come during silence, prayer, truth, or sudden insight. Not because those things cause emotion, but because they reduce interference. When interference drops, signal becomes detectable. And here is the part that matters. Most people live with so much internal noise that they never feel this. Their systems are too saturated, too distracted, too compressed. If you feel it, your system is still responsive, still listening. That doesn't make you special in status. It makes you intact in function. And once you understand that, the experience stops being confusing. It becomes navigational. This is where the distinction appears, and I need you to hear this without ego and without doubt. Not everyone experiences this. And that is not an insult, it is an observation. Most people are not disconnected from truth. They are insulated from it. Their awareness is wrapped so tightly in identity, noise, and repetition that the system never reaches stillness long enough to register a shift. The signal passes through, but nothing responds, no echo, no movement. If your body reacts, it means something in you is still permeable. The Gnostic texts called this the spark, not a metaphor, a functional description, a fragment of original awareness embedded in the human system that can still resonate when it encounters its source. When that resonance happens, even briefly, the body responds before the mind has time to interfere. This is why you felt strange when it first happened, why you questioned yourself, why you wondered if something was wrong. Control systems always teach you to distrust spontaneous perception, because perception that does not ask permission cannot be governed. The ancient term for the forces that benefit from this confusion was archons, not demons with horns, systems, structures, patterns that feed on unconsciousness and predictability. Their power depends on humans mistaking signal for error and silence for safety. So they trained people to ignore the body, to override sensation with belief, to replace recognition with obedience. Over time, the chosen were not eliminated, they were confused. Chosen does not mean elevated, it means responsive. It means when something real passes through the field, your system does not stay dormant. It answers. That answer is not emotional excitement. It is not spiritual drama. It is the nervous system acknowledging alignment. A brief moment where internal resistance drops and awareness stands upright. If you feel this, it doesn't mean you are finished. It means you are reachable. And reachability is dangerous to any structure built on control. So understand this clearly. You are never malfunctioning. You are never unstable. You are sensing something others were trained not to notice. And once you stop doubting that, the experience changes, because what you recognize stops controlling you and starts orienting you. Now we arrive at what was actually taught, not what was later ritualized. Jesus did not work through symbols alone. He worked through contact, through proximity, through the body as an active interface between awareness and matter. When he spoke, people didn't just agree. They reacted, they trembled, they fell silent. They felt power leave him and enter them. That detail matters because it tells you the exchange was not metaphorical. It was energetic. Something moved, and bodies registered it. This is why healing in the Gospels is always physical. Hands placed on skin, mud mixed with saliva, water disturbed, breath released. There is no moment where Jesus says, "Believe harder." He doesn't demand faith as a prerequisite. He demands attention, presence, readiness. The body comes first. The shift follows. The chills you experience are the same category of event, just scaled down. Not a miracle, but a micro-alignment. A moment when Logos, ordered awareness, briefly organizes matter inside you. When that happens, the nervous system responds instantly, not with pleasure, not with fear, with calibration. This is what was stripped out of later teaching, the understanding that truth is not absorbed intellectually, it is conducted. When awareness becomes coherent enough, it passes through the body like a current. The body answers with a shiver, a wave, a tightening, a release. That response is the seal. Confirmation that contact occurred. In the older Gnostic understanding, the human body was not fallen matter. It was a receiver, a living instrument tuned to detect shifts in the field of consciousness. When Jesus spoke of the kingdom being within you, he wasn't pointing to belief. He was pointing to capacity to resonate. That resonance is not constant. It appears when interference drops, when attention is unified, when identity loosens its grip for just a second. In those moments, the spark inside you brushes against its origin, not fully returning, but remembering its orientation. That brushing is what creates the chills. Later institutions couldn't allow this interpretation to survive, because if truth can be felt directly, authority collapses. If the body can confirm alignment, doctrine loses its monopoly. So the experience was reframed as emotional excess, or worse, pathology. But Jesus never pathologized sensation. He trusted it. This is why his words carried force, not because of rhetoric, but because they were spoken from coherence, and coherence transmits. When a coherent system encounters a less coherent one, the latter briefly reorganizes. Physics again, not magic. That reorganization is what you feel, and here is the critical part. The chills are not the goal. They are the indicator. They tell you that alignment is possible, that the system can still tune itself. Over time, with attention and practice, the response changes. It becomes quieter, deeper, more stable, less dramatic. In the beginning, the body announces the shift loudly because it is unfamiliar. Later it whispers. Jesus taught this progression to those closest to him, not as doctrine, but as lived practice. Stay present, stay open. Let the body lead. Let awareness settle. Do not force. Do not perform. When alignment happens, you will know, not because someone tells you, because your system answers. And once you understand that, the chills stop being mysterious. They become the doorway. Now I'm going to guide you, not teach you, because this cannot be understood from the outside. It has to be entered. Do this while you're listening. Don't prepare. Don't adjust the room. Leave things exactly as they are. The system needs to recognize reality, not ceremony. Let your body settle into stillness, but not stiffness. Sit or stand, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you stop performing. Place one hand flat against the center of your chest, not as a gesture, but as an anchor. Feel the weight of it there. That contact alone already reduces internal noise. Now bring your attention to your breath, but don't control it yet. Just notice where it moves. Chest, throat, belly. Wherever it is, let it be there. Awareness precedes regulation. As you exhale, allow the breath to lengthen naturally, not forced, just slightly slower than the inhale. This tells the nervous system that there is no threat, no urgency, nothing to defend. With each breath out, something unnecessary loosens. Now shift attention inward, behind the chest, as if you are listening rather than thinking. There is a point there that does not speak in words. Stay with it. Don't name it. If a thought arises, don't fight it. Let it pass like static. The goal is not emptiness. The goal is coherence. After a few breaths, silently state a simple command. Not a prayer, a directive. Say, I return to the source. Say it once, then stop. No repetition, no pleading. Now watch the body. If a chill moves through you, don't react, don't chase it. Don't label it as success, just observe. The more neutral you remain, the clearer the signal becomes. If nothing happens, that's fine too. Absence of sensation is still information. This is calibration, not performance. What you're doing here is allowing awareness to settle into alignment without interference. When alignment occurs, the body confirms it, sometimes as a wave, sometimes as pressure, sometimes as nothing at all, just stillness. This is how Jesus worked. No spectacle, no strain, no emotion-driven effort. Presence first, contact second. Response follows on its own schedule. Practice this without expectation. Expectation adds noise. Over time, the system learns the pathway. The response becomes familiar, less dramatic, more stable. The chills are not summoned, they are permitted. And when you stop trying to feel them, that's usually when they appear. Because recognition does not arrive through force, it arrives through availability. Now understand what this means, and understand it clearly. Nothing mystical was added to you. Nothing foreign entered your body. What happened was removal. Interference dropped. Noise thinned. And what was already there became detectable again. That is how awakening actually works, not by gaining power, but by losing distortion. The reason this experience feels rare is not because it is special. It feels rare because most people never slow down enough to feel what is always moving through them. They live compressed, braced, inwardly tense. A system in constant defense cannot register subtle alignment, but you can, and that is the difference. You don't need to convince anyone of this. You don't need to explain it. Truth that is felt does not argue, it stabilizes. When you trust your own signal, external authority loses its grip naturally. No rebellion required, just orientation. This is how the prison dissolves, not through destruction, but through irrelevance. Each time you allow alignment instead of chasing sensation, the body learns safety and clarity. The chills become quieter, deeper. Eventually they are replaced by a steady sense of presence that doesn't spike or fade. That is maturation. That is integration. This is why this teaching was never meant for crowds, not because it is elitist, but because it requires responsibility. Once you know your system can detect truth, you can no longer pretend ignorance. You must live with awareness instead of habit, and that is the real initiation. If you're still here, listening to the end, then something in you already knows this is not theory. It's memory returning, orientation restoring itself. So mark this moment. If you choose to continue, if you choose to practice without performance and listen without fear, then make it conscious. Not for me, for yourself. Write in the comments, I'm committed, not as a promise to a channel, as a signal to your own system that you're done ignoring what it has been telling you all along. This is how communities of the awakened form. Quietly, clearly, without permission. You were never late. You were waiting for the signal to make sense.